Welcome to Anime Recaps. In this video, we will explain Waiting in the Summer. This anime tells a story of a high school student who falls in love with a girl who turns out to be an alien. Even so, he still loves the girl. One day, a starship tried to bring the girl back home, even though she wanted to stay with someone she loved. Can their love unite, even though they are two different beings? Let's find out in Waiting in the Summer. Waiting in the Summer tells a story of a young man named Kaito Kirishima, a student in his first year of high school. Kaito is an avid videographer and constantly recording on an 8mm handheld camera that he inherited from his late grandfather. That night, Kaito was on a bridge recording something. But suddenly, Kaito is caught in the middle of a mysterious explosion from a mysterious plane, and feels someone pulling his hand as he almost falls off the bridge. Surprisingly, Kaito woke up the next day, and he was fine but didn't remember what actually happened the day before. Undeterred by what seemed to be a dream, Kaito decided to get ready for school without thinking too much about it. Kaito only lives with his older sister, Nanami, who loves him very much. Both of their parents died long ago when Kaito was a child. That's why Nanami cares so much for Kaito and works hard to make ends meet for them. Kaito has several close friends at school, namely two girls named Kana Tanigawa and Miyo Kitahara, and a young man named Tetsuro Ishigaki. The four of them decide to make a movie over the summer vacation. When Kaito was busy recording with his camera, he accidentally saw the figure of a beautiful red-haired girl who had just arrived at school known as Ichika Takatsuki. Ichika is a third-year student at Kaito's school and close friends with a girl named Ramon Yamano. Kaito seems interested in Ichika and watches her from a distance while she is having lunch with Ramon. Tetsuro, who knows this, then watches the two girls and takes the initiative to invite Ichika and Ramon to join in making a film with them during summer vacation. Ichika and Ramon then welcomed the invitation and agreed. When Kaito comes home from school, he dreams of knowing Ichika more closely and spending more time with her. Unintentionally, Ichika turns out to know Kaito's delusion and finally decides to stay at his house for a while. Elsewhere, Nanami, who was about to go home, had a little problem with her motorbike and asked Kana, who was accidentally passing by, to help her. Turning to Kaito, he suddenly felt a pain in his neck and fell unconscious. Ichika looked panicked when she saw Kaito was unconscious. Ichika, who turns out to be an alien whose ship accidentally crash lands on Earth and injures Kaito, rushes to help Kaito with using her powers. The scene then switches and shows Ichika trying to control the plane that fell to Earth. Even though the plane was damaged, Ichika managed to save Kaito, who almost fell off the bridge. Ichika actually disguised herself as a student at Kaito's school because she wanted to confirm his health condition since the incident that night. Turning to the present, Kaito, who has woken up, is explaining to his sister and Kana about what happened between him and Ichika just now. Ichika then introduced herself and said that she had just moved from overseas. Because Ichika couldn't possibly tell Kaito and the others that she was from another planet, she said that she only meant to help Kaito because he suddenly fainted. When Kaito asked Ichika why she came to the city, she told him that she wanted to find a forest that was constantly on her mind. After hearing Ichika's explanation, Nanami and Kana finally understood. Even Nanami allowed Ichika to stay at her house for a while. The next morning, Nanami was suddenly assigned to work in Bolivia for a month. Nanami then asked Ichika to look after Kaito while she was away without the slightest suspicion. Kaito and Ichika then took Nanami to the train station, and when they returned home, suddenly Kana, Miyo, Ramon, and Tetsuro were already at Kaito's house to discuss the film they were going to make. They discussed a film project while drinking, and when Kaito felt unwell and went to the kitchen to drink a glass of water, Ichika followed suit and then landed a light kiss on Kaito's forehead. Kaito immediately felt nervous and happy when Ichika kissed him. However, when Kaito was about to confess his love for Ichika, she asked him not to say anything and just left. The next morning, Kaito decides to skip school, and he apparently feels ashamed and thinks that Ichika doesn't like him. Because Kaito has been acting strange since last night, Ichika then thinks that he already knows her true identity, who is an alien. When in fact, Kaito just wanted to confess his love for Ichika. Feeling worried that Kaito didn't go to school, Kana went straight to Kaito's house to check on his condition after school. Because Kaito wanted to avoid Ichika, he then asked Kana to talk elsewhere, namely in one of the bustling centers of the city. However, without them knowing, Tetsuro, Miyo, and Ramon secretly followed them because they wanted to shoot a film and record scenes as naturally as possible to make the players' expressions not forced and look more real. When Kaito was about to go home, he accidentally crossed paths with Ichika, and they talked to each other to clear up any misunderstandings between them. Kaito then ventured to confess his love for Ichika, but Ichika didn't say anything because she felt embarrassed and awkward when Kaito said that he was in love with her. That night, Minami, staying at Tetsuro's apartment, then gave Tetsuro a vacation ticket to Okinawa and told him to go on vacation there with his friends. Tetsuro immediately invited Kaito and the others to vacation in Okinawa, while continuing their film project. While shooting a film on the beach, Kaito accidentally met a girl named Kaori, his childhood friend in elementary school. Kaori was very happy to be reunited with Kaito after so long. Kaori even openly approached Kaito and made Kana and Ichika feel jealous. Meanwhile, Kaori's friend, a girl named Chiharu, seems to be approaching Tetsuro because she is obsessed with the tall boy. But Tetsuro instead felt uncomfortable with Chiharu's attitude and tried to avoid her. On the other hand, Mio looks annoyed when Chiharu keeps approaching Tetsuro because it turns out that Mio has secretly liked Tetsuro for a long time. Ramon then decides to invite Kaori to participate in their film project. The next day, while they were filming, Chiharu came back to seduce Tetsuro. Feeling uncomfortable, Tetsuro decided to leave from there. Realizing that Tetsuro had disappeared, Kaito and the others split up to look for Tetsuro's whereabouts. Kaori took advantage of this by taking Kaito somewhere and then confessing her feelings when they were alone. But Kaito then rejected Kaori's declaration of love. Ichika, who was there, then apologized because she felt her presence disturbed Kaori and Kaito, who were alone together. Ichika then leaves there and realizes that she may have fallen in love with Kaito because she feels very jealous when he is with another woman. Ichika and Kaori then went to a place where Kaori told her that she expressed her love for Kaito only as an outlet, because she had been rejected by the boy she liked. Meanwhile, due to an unexpected incident, Tetsuro, who managed to help Mio who was in trouble, finally finds out that Mio actually likes him. However, after Mio confessed her love for Tetsuro, he couldn't return her feeling because he had fallen in love with another girl. Even so, Tetsuro and Mio remain good friends. After spending their vacation in Okinawa, Ramon is seen meeting Minami and discussing something with her. Meanwhile, Kaito and the others plan to attend the summer festival. In the evening, they prepare to go to the festival, and Ramon suggests visiting the haunted house on the hill. Apparently, Ramon and Minami had conspired to scare Kaito and the others. Minami disguises herself as a ghost to scare them, while Ramon will record it. However, suddenly Ichika screamed, and Kaito thought that she was in danger. It turns out that Ichika screamed because she saw the space patrol plane tasked with bringing back the aliens who were stranded on the planet. Kaito, who rushed there, immediately tried to save Ichika, who was about to be taken away by the plane. After struggling hard, Kaito finally managed to help Ichika, just as Kana and the others arrived there. Ichika then reveals to everyone that she is an alien from another planet. But it didn't bother them at all, especially Kaito, who subconsciously suspected Ichika's identity due to their first meeting. Since that incident, Ichika started avoiding Kaito and the others because she was afraid that she would hurt Kaito and her friends with her presence near them. Because Ichika keeps avoiding Kaito, he decides to go somewhere and asks Tetsuro to keep his house for a while. On the other hand, Ichika accidentally runs into Kana, who scolds Ichika for avoiding Kaito, even though Ichika has fallen in love with him. Kana told Ichika that they both like Kaito, while Kaito only likes Ichika, so being an alien is no excuse for Ichika to not be happy with Kaito. Influenced by Kana's insistence that she was making excuses to not seize happiness, Ichika confessed to Kaito and began dating him. Ichika said she would continue loving Kaito even after leaving the planet. Meanwhile, Kana feels depressed after knowing that Kaito and Ichika have confessed their love for each other and are now officially dating. A few days later, Kana, who was trying to move on, was suddenly surprised by Tetsuro, who confessed his love for her. Kana then rejected Tetsuro because she only considered him as her friend all this time. Kana then ran away and headed to Kaito's house, where she finally confessed her love for Kaito. However, Kana just wanted to confess her feelings and didn't expect Kaito to return her feeling. At least, Kana felt relieved after confessing the feelings of love she had been having for Kaito. The next day, when Kaito and Ichika were about to go to school, they were surprised by Ichika's sister, Emika, who came from their home planet and intended to bring Ichika back. Ichika then introduces Kaito as her boyfriend to her sister and says she doesn't want to return to their home planet. Ichika then ran away from there and ran into Kana, and she immediately told Kana everything. Meanwhile, Kaito tries to persuade Emika not to take Ichika away from Earth. However, Emika tells Kaito that she has to take Ichika away because she has no other choice. If Ichika continues to be on a planet that is not her home planet, it will be dangerous for her. However, Ramon, who listened to their conversation, said that she had another way for Ichika to stay on Earth. On the other hand, Kana then told Tetsuro and Mio about the problem Ichika was having and decided to help her find a solution. It turns out that the only way for Ichika to stay on Earth is to go to a place that has always crossed her mind. After doing a search on the map, they finally found the place. Ramon then drives a car and intends to take Ichika to the place. Nanami and Emika helped out. Likewise, Kana, Mio, and Tetsuro are trying to trick the approaching spaceships by messing up their signal with a device given by Ramon so they can't sniff Ichika's tracks. However, after Ichika's hard struggle with the help of Kaito and his friends, the spaceship managed to find Ichika's whereabouts and take her away from Earth. Before their separation, Ichika told Kaito that she loved him very much and promised to always love him even though she had left Earth and returned to her home planet. Kaito, helpless against the spaceship, could only look at Ichika's departure with deep sadness. Finally, summer passed, and they went back to school. Kaito looked gloomy because he was separated from Ichika. Not only that, but Ramon plans to leave school and say goodbye to Kaito and the others. It is known that Ramon turns out to be a Men in Black agent who is tasked with supervising, even getting rid of aliens who threaten the safety of mankind on Earth. Likewise with Minami's husband. Before leaving, Ramon gave the film results they made during summer vacation. Kaito and the others immediately watched the film while reminiscing about Ichika, wishing that she would be here, and they watched the film together. At the end of the series, Ichika is shown in the final scene of the completed film, revealing that she was able to return to Earth again. The moral that can be learned from this anime is, true love and sincerity is unlimited to anything. Even the vastness of the universe will not be a barrier for us to finding true love. If you haven't found your soulmate in this world, believe that your soulmate may still be on another planet and haven't been able to come to see you for now.